What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the part 4 of a story where Izuku became the shadow hero. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more information. Now, let's get into part 4. The next day after Izuku and Rumi did some morning exercise, they did some sparring in her base dojo. Izuku realized that he had been neglecting some of his skills, especially with his weapons. So for over an hour the duo worked with their dagger skills and Izuku with a spear too. Alarm. Skill. Advanced dagger arts level increased from LV.2 to LV.3, passive. Due to the user preference to use daggers, you can use daggers more proficiently. When a dagger is used, the attacks gain 45% additional damage. Alarm. Skill. Advanced spear arts level increased from LV.2 to LV.3, passive. Due to the user preference to use spears, you can use spears more proficiently. When a spear is used, the attacks gain 45% additional damage. They did think that they were on the borderline of leveling up, but having a higher level doesn't hurt. The two took Rumi's car to go to a private land that Rumi was allowed to train in. Izuku summoned all shadows, he spoke up to them, "You can all relax, just don't go out of the land." They all bowed, but Igris and Baruka stayed. "I am guessing you two want to have a spar with me or Rumi?" They nodded. Izuku looked around to see if any of other shadows wanted to spar, but none of them were there. The shadows from the Heaven's Castle were all relaxing under some trees. The bison was socializing with the bears. The knights were exploring, probably looking for any intruders. The elves were hunting by the seams of things. Scorpions were lazing around in the sun, a habit that stayed with them most probably. Beast on the other hand, was having fun digging a hole most probably to Brazil, as it was the opposite of Japan. Rumi wanted 2v2 against them. "I will continue feeding them mana so they won't disperse." She then looked at the two shadows who had a silent gulp by the bloodthirst the woman had on her beautiful face. "Let's make you a higher level, you hear?" The two nodded as they had a small rivalry. Who am I kidding, they had a massive rivalry with each other. The two pairs stood around 10 meters from each other. "This is a no-hold spar. With Raphael and my healing skill we can heal up any missing limbs. Just try not to kill us as I don't think we can revive ourselves." The two shadows nodded to that. But an imaginary signal, the four rushed at each other with speeds a normal civilian wouldn't see. Baruka came at Rumi first, his dagger clashed with her dagger, but she jumped over him with a shout of Lunafall. His powerful legs hit the forearm of Baruka who had that part dispersed, but had it regenerated a couple of seconds later when he jumped back. Izuku on the other hand used the skill. Spear throw to throw his spear at Igris. Even if the accuracy increases, Igris was too fast for that. Smirking, he used skill. Dominator's touch to make it come back, whilst he engaged with a dagger against a sword fight. Igris forgot about his liege's spear and had his left arm cut off. Even though it took 180 MP off Izuku, it was regenerated netherless. Betting the S-rank lance of Longinus back, he threw it at Baruka as it was a 2v2. The ice elf didn't expect it and had a critical shot. Using the skill. Sprint was something Izuku didn't do since getting hero's boots as it was usually the speed required to get a job done. He went behind Baruka who shot ice at Izuku whilst Rumi dealt with Igris. Using the skill. Fireball, it destroyed the ice, but when Baruka was looking around he couldn't find Izuku until a punch was landed on his stomach, pushing the elf back by a couple of meters. During the same time, Igris was counteracting Rumi's Dominator's touch. With a show of speed and mastery of that skill, he pulled Rumi towards him and punched her. The bunny woman couldn't do anything to counteract it, but when she was punched, some blood escaped her mouth. Running towards him, she used Luna Ring whilst was blocked, but barely by the armor that Igris was wearing. She then noticed that Izuku was then flown towards her direction. He had a couple of cuts on his body, and so she suspected Baruka got him towards her. "Any plans?" Smirking, "What you said yesterday. Kick ass and show them that we are no one's bitches." She chuckled, "That is true." With that the two rushed towards the two. Rumi had her knight dagger out and is facing Igris, whilst Izuku had his lance of Longinus and the T-Rex dagger out. He tried to do the skill. Vital strike 3 times, but only one connected on Baruka. His mastery of the dagger far surpassed his own. But the subtle use of the skill. Stealth, he hit his right arm that carried the spear and smashed the tip of the spear onto the face of Baruka. Igris wasn't bearing much better, with more energy that Rumi had from the small interaction with Izuku. She realized that she was unequal to Igris with the Knight 2 seeing it. The spar continued for another 30 minutes where Izuku refilled his mana once more. It was a draw duo to the regeneration factors of the two, but when they finished Rumi nearly collapsed. Izuku with the help of Zadkiel, healed Rumi to the best of their abilities. At the end Igris with Baruka kneeled down in front of Izuku with a notification appearing in front of Izuku. Igris and Baruka have reached the level for a promotion. Do you allow? Agree, reject. Smiling and patting them both on the shoulders, you both deserve the promotions. I agree. With that the aura of the two increased. Ha, elite knights. Alarm. Igris LV.27, Knight, to LV.1, Elite Knight, Knight. Baruka LV.27, Knight, to LV.1, Elite Knight, Elf King. Shadow Army. You have only unlocked 4 ranks. Normal to Elite to Knight to Elite Knight. Normal. Their strength is C rank. Their level cap is LV.10, then you need to upgrade them manually. Elite. Their strength is B rank. Their level cap is LV.20. Then you need to upgrade them manually. Knight. Their strength is A rank. Their level cap is LV.30, then you need to upgrade them manually. Elite Knight. Their strength is low mid S rank. Their level cap is 40, then you need to upgrade them manually. The higher the level on the scale, the higher the strength is. If regeneration aspect is included, then they can defeat higher level opponents. To increase a level, the best way is for them to fight stronger opponents. Real battles increase the rate by 50%, spars increase the rate by 25%. Higher the intelligence accelerates the growth of soldiers. Surprisingly, the hunting party too increased their level, with the furry bison upgrading by 1-2 by playing with the bears. Alarm. 10. Ice Elves LV.10 to LV.11, Elite. Great Siberian Bison LV.1 to LV.2, Normal. Let's rest up for an hour, then we can start our patrol. Rumi said. Sure, by the way, do you do paperwork? With that she froze. Chuckling nervously, I forgot to do it yesterday. Shaking his head, after we come back from our patrol today, you can show me and the 4 winged shadows how to do the paperwork. The angels can continue the paperwork whilst we are on patrol. Thank goodness, I hate paperwork. Turning to Izuku, thanks Zuku, leveled up any skills. He nodded. Fireball, Vital Strike, Stealth and Spear Throw were leveled up. Skill. Fireball leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4, active. With the use of 45 MP you can use fireballs to attack. It can deal a maximum of 800 HP damage. Skill. Vital Strike leveled up from LV.2 to LV.3, active. Dagger only skill. Uses 50 MP to deal critical damage as you attack your foe's vital area. Skill. Stealth leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4, active. It requires 190 MP to activate and 7 MP per second to use it for a longer period of time. You become invisible to the naked eye with sound, smell and presence erased. Skill. Spear Throw leveled up from LV.2 to LV.3, active. Deal damage by throwing your spear. As the skill's level increases, damage and accuracy will increase 50 MP. That is pretty good. What about Bloodlust? You used it, didn't you? Sighing, yeah I did, but it didn't work as their levels are high enough, it won't be effective. This somehow made the state 2 to perk up Enjoy. It will take a while to level that up. They continued to chat when Rumi received a notification from the Hero Network that Stain would most likely be in Hosu. She just grinned at that. But Stain. It was already night time when he came out of the meeting with Shigaraki. The behavior of the leader kind of surprised him. He heard rumors that he was an immature child in an adult's body, but there was some conviction behind what he said. His mood wasn't the best though. Somehow Ingenium was healed up to his former glory, and they didn't release who did it, but a lot of people thought it was Izuku Midoriya, as his healing skill was amazing, compared to the likes of Recovery Girl. After exiting the portal that was similar to what he saw the green-haired kid enter but purple, he looked over the horizon to see the peaceful city of Hosu. Not even looking back at the 2 new arrivals, he jumped away. The gray-haired man then rasped out as he was injured from Stain, Kurogiri, bring the Nomu out. He just wanted that man dead. Stain injured him, and he wanted something to destroy. As you wish, Tamura Shigaraki. With that 6 Nomus came out, 4 being low-tier Nomus that are around B rank in strength, whilst the other 2 being mid-tier low mid-A rank Nomu. From what Tamura knows, the doctor had 12 Nomus in operation, and none of them being the high-end that was defeated by Izuku and Igris, but that Nomu was a high A rank. So far he knows that there are the low-tier, mid-tier and upper-tier, with the talks of having a high-end coming soon. Destroy Hosu and kill the heroes and Stain. With that the 6 Nomus shot out, with 5 of them jumping from building to building looking for heroes, whilst a winged Nomu flew. With Izuku and Rumi. After Rumi told Izuku about the hero killer, Stain. The both of them got into their hero suits, and with the permission of using his quirk, they drove to Hosu. When they arrived, it was already dark. They decided to jump from building to building looking for trouble. It only took some time to see the town burning. Izuku sent 6 Nomus, luckily not as strong as Beast, but still, I sent 6 Nomus. Those are the thing that you dealt with at USJ. He nodded. They are not as strong as Beast at that time, but still can cause a problem. Baruka, Igris, Raphael, Beast and Zadkiel come forth. Get me the heads of the Nomus. They all bowed to Izuku. Sorry Fluffy, you are too big and you will cause collateral damage. He consoled the big bear. Everyone except beast types come forth. Separate and help all civilians. If a Nomu is there, try to get reinforcements, otherwise you have permission to fight. Try not to get far from the mages, they will locate all of the people stuck under rubble. With that, all of them got out of the shadows, bowed and left. I won't lie, but with your shadows us heroes won't have anything to do. Rumi remarked. Tuckling, wouldn't that be good though? Heroes not really being needed is crime, as it would be low. Shaking her head in an affectionate manner, can you sense Stain? Izuku concentrated. After a couple of seconds he looked northwest. He is just over 400 meters northwest. He has. Izuku stopped. Has? Then I will kick his ass if he decided to get revenge. Izuku gritted his teeth but then relaxed due to the system. But the shadows. The heroes and civilians were confused at first, but when one shouted, "It is Izuku Midoriya's shadow army," the heroes and the civilians relaxed a bit. Then they watched in awe as the normal and elite rank saved the civilians from burning buildings, and some of the angels using elemental magic aqua water to put the fire down. The knight and elite knight ranks then were seen battling the Nomu. Some heroes were grateful whilst a minority Endeavor was pissed at the shadows dealing with the Nomu and hogging all the glory. Though one question was asked in the majority of the heroes, where is Izuku Midoriya? Zadkiel, a 10-winged dominion, was dealing with a Nomu with multiple hands and 4 eyes. It had a light grey shade of skin. Pulling out his sword, the angel tried to decapitate the Nomu, but it jumped back. Using the weak strength enhancement the Nomu had, it ran towards Zadkiel, but it was burnt by the fire attack of Zadkiel, leaving only the head remaining. He took it and flew back to his liege. Beast was against another light grey Nomu. This one had 70% of its brain showing, but it had wings with some kind of respirator mask on. The beast tried to fly away, but with the strong enhancement quirks it had and it being leveled up, it caught the flying birdie. The Nomu seems to have Tsubasa quirk. It would be useful addition to his liege's army. He didn't have a sharp object, so killing it was by crushing its head and then running back to Izuku. Raphael had 2 light grey Nomus. One of them tried to hit the train, but with his faster speed, it caught up and punched one towards the other Nomu. Using his sword, he unsheathed it, and the 4 eyes Nomu that had its body mutated to have an axe on one hand. The other Nomu, which had a massive hammer similar to Thor's hammer, was soon killed too with some telekinetic magic and using his sword. Truly Raphael's liege would be pleased. Igris was fighting the mid-tier Nomu. It had no eyes and its skin color was dark grey, it wore some kind of jeans and had a massive jaw. Before he could fight the said Nomu, he had to save a couple from the fire that Endeavor produced. Silently growling at the top 2 hero, he took out his trusty sword and with a moment of inattention from the Nomu. He cut the head off and pulled it to him closer with his telekinetic powers. He could see Endeavor growl this time, but pointed at the civilians he saved, and that man calmed down a bit. Igris then sped up to reach his liege with the head of the Nomu, knowing that his brethren of the shadows. Baruka had to deal with a dark grey Nomu with 6 eyes and a mutated body. He tried punching it, but it seemed it had shock absorption. He tried using his dagger, but the skin didn't allow him to cut it. Getting frustrated, he froze the Nomu, and after that he then hacked the neck off. The opponent was nothing, especially when he was an elite knight. He then rushed towards his liege with the thing he asked. You leveled up. With Izuku and Rumi with Stain. Looking down from the rooftop, the duo could see 2 teens on the floor lying down. One had armor which was clearly Tenya, the other was distinguished by the red and white hair Shoto Todoroki. Both seemed pissed though. You 2 are fakes, you don't deserve to live. You didn't even notice native, only caring for your ambitions. Stain growled looking at the down 2, the tin can was looking for revenge, whilst the daddy's issues kid was looking for fame and satisfaction of defeating him before his old man. You will distract him from the front, I will get him from the back. Maruko whispered to her boyfriend. She still had butterflies in her stomach, knowing that Izuku is hers. She saw Izuku nod and then jump down. He clapped, it is good to see you Stain. This gained the attention of the infamous killer. Another child, pretty pathetic for heroes to send in children. After a couple of seconds of scrutiny, his eyes widened. You are Izuku Midoriya, are you not? I would prefer if you would call me by my hero name, Shadow Hero. Monarch. Why would I? You still have Stain eyes widened not seeing the 2 students and 1 hero. Where are they? Oh native, Todoroki and my idiotic classmate. Before I came I summoned my bears to get them out and one of my shadow healers are healing them as we speak. You have potential Monarch, but how long can you last against me? Oh I will think. He made a thinking motion, but it was over for Stain as he didn't notice Rumi jumping down and kicking his head into the ground. Nice work Maruko, let's tie him up. You have rope Monarch? She asked with a professional tone. He quickly bought some rope and with the both tied him up and got all of the hidden weapons from the hero killer. Izuku healed him up but still made him stay in the unconscious state. Suddenly ice appeared, but was broken off my baruka. Izuku had his eyes widen, so did Rumi. Becoming pissed that her student boyfriend was nearly killed. What the fuck, kid? You could have us killed. DCH would have been easier to deal with the killer. Shoto spat out whilst looking at Stain. So you want to hurt a villain after he was captured? We are heroes, not judges, Todoroki. Izuku growled out. The monarch then looked and found all of his high command with 1 or 2 heads, when Raphael was included, all kneeling in front of Izuku. Well done, guys. He asked for the shadows to block the view. Shadow extraction can be used on this target. 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 On ice, I have 7 spaces left too. Izuku mused to himself, arise. You extracted the shadow. You have upgraded the shadow. 4, low tier Nomu LV.7, normal. You extracted the shadow. You have upgraded the shadow. 2, mid tier Nomu LV.17, elite. Izuku smiled at the new additions to his army. The low tier Nomi had black shadows with grey skin similar to the elves. Their body structures were a little larger compared to the original ones and looked a little more human-like. The mid-tier Nomu had dark grey skin, but had more black on their body. They too looked closely to humans. He felt that the low tier had 2 quirks each, whilst the mid-tier had 3 quirks. This furthered his suspicion that All For One was behind something like this. Soon he dispersed his shadows except the ones that are helping currently. The duo went to the main street waiting for the police. Tenya wanted to punch Stain but was stopped by Izuku. It took a couple of minutes to talk to Tenya, whilst Rumi was berating Shoto for nearly killing comrades, which he scoffed at. When police came, so did Endeavor. When the police asked what happened, Shoto said that he defeated Stain. The said man woke up and started to laugh. You tried to kill your comrades in the process. You are a fake hero, so are you, Endeavor. The 2 that captured me were Maruko and Monarch. The rest of you are fake. It seems that the son of Endeavor developed the killing of comrades mentality. Endeavor tried to punch the nose-less man, but was blocked by his daughter who arrived with her ice. Izuku nodded towards her, which she nodded back. The police was shocked, then asked everyone to meet at the police station. Izuku then informed the policeman, I am leaving some of my shadows for helping the civilians. Though he secretly commanded Igris and Zadkiel to stay hidden and look after the shadows left behind, so no trouble would occur to them. The police agreed, and then they all left towards the police station, whilst Stain was taken for interrogation. No one saw the hidden Tamura who recorded this interaction. For some reason he liked Izuku. Stain told him how if need be he can be ruthless if need to by what he's seen. But a hidden connection was also created from their first meeting. The attack failed, but the video he captured was amazing. He could ruin the trust in a lot of heroes, but keeping the ideal hero of his on the top. If he played his cards right, Izuku could be of use to him. Police station. Tsukauchi, also known as the human lie detector, just finished his report. As everyone was healed thanks to Izuku, no one stayed in the hospital. Tenya Iida had a nerve damaged in his arm. Even with protests of the young man, Izuku glared at him, causing him to shut up, allowing Izuku to heal him up. Unknowingly that made the skill healer level up. He talked to the head of Hosu's police department, and when everything was said they entered to the waiting room where everyone was at. All that happened in the span of 2 hours, yeah, a tiring day for the police. Henju Tsuragami, or otherwise known as the chief with a dog quirk, then spoke to them. We have reviewed all of the statements, woof, and I am not pleased with you, Endeavor, especially, woof. Your work-study student not only used his quirk illegally, but also tried to commit murder, woof, on his comrade and the villain. Ingenium, your work-study student too tried to use his quirk illegally, but did also try to kill a villain, which is still unacceptable. Woof Tensei bowed his head. Maruko, you have allowed Monarch to use his quirk. I must say I am grateful, woof, thanks to you and your shadows the casualties have stayed at the minimum, especially with your angels healing, woof. You are lucky that Stain was healed, woof, as more persecutions could have happened towards you too, woof. The policeman pointed at the duo of teens. You could see Tenya's apologetic face whilst Shoto just gritted his teeth. Your punishment will be decided by Nezu himself, but for Ingenium and Endeavor, woof. Your teaching licenses will be revoked for 3 months, woof. Shoto wanted to say something about Mutz, but seeing the angry expression from Endeavor towards the policeman, he just smirked. Tsukauchi continued, however, Endeavor, Todoroki. You also have committed a crime by lying during your questioning, which is also an offense. This caused both of them to scowl. Suddenly a cat policeman ran into the room. Sir, look at this. He then showed the very same video of Stain talking about Endeavor to the group. It came out over an hour ago, but it already was on some news channels with the capture of Stain and the Nomu attack on Hosu. Take it down. Endeavor demanded. He was humiliated not only by Stain, but his daughter too. The cat policeman replied, "We are trying to do that, but the video is being reposted constantly. Additionally, news channels are reporting it too." Enju sighed, "Tomorrow morning at 9 AM, I will be having a conference, woof. Go home and relax." Iida to Dorky, "Be more careful in the future as this might actually put you in jail, woof." There were some more statements being said and Kenju asked for Endeavor, Maruko and her student to accompany him in the day. Later on the two booked a hotel to be closer to the station and went to sleep. Notifications that came to Izuku. Skill. Healer leveled up from LV.4 to LV.5, active. Then heal up to intermediate injuries with some regrowing of missing minor organs and cells. The current speed is medium 25 mana per second. Some shadows have leveled up. 44 Winged Angels LV.4 to LV.5, normal. 4, Cherub LV.3 to LV.4, elite. 33, Knight LV.6 to LV.7, elite. 30, Power Angel LV.8 to LV.9, elite. Throne Angel LV.10 to LV.11, elite. 10, Ice Elves LV.11 to LV.12, elite. 6, Mages LV.18 to LV.19, elite. Zadkiel LV.15 to LV.16, Knight. Beast LV.18 to LV.19, Knight. Raphael LV.19 to LV.20, Knight. Vigorous LV.1 to LV.2, Elite Knight, Knight. Baruka LV.1 to LV.2, Elite Knight, Elf King. Status. Name. Izuku Midoriya. Job. Shadow Monarch. Title. The one who overcame adversary, +2. Level. 82. Fatigue. 0. HP. 20,120. MP. 3480. Strength. 236. Agility. 226. Sense. 201. Vitality. 216. Intelligence. 341. Remaining points. 0. Physical damage reduction. 12% plus 40%. Physical pain nullification. 27%. Skills. Passive. Unknown, max. Muscularity, LV.1. Advanced Dagger Arts, LV.3. Advanced Spear Arts, LV.3. Active. Sprint, LV.4. Bloodlust, LV.2. Fireball, LV.4. Vital Strike, LV.3. Stealth, LV.4. Dominator's Touch, LV.3. Spear Throw, LV.3. Healer, LV.5. Job Specific. Shadow Extraction, LV.1 and 191 200/3. Save Shadow, LV.2 and 191 190 seconds. Waking up, Rumi found herself wrapped around a pair of strong arms. She smiled at that. They didn't do anything even if they could. Her urges were not that high, the estrogen and progesterone hormones are not high, which she was glad about. She looked at the time and this caused her to wake up with a bang. Izuku woke up with a sudden movement. Bun, is everything okay? He even pulled out his dagger. Widening her eyes, we only have 15 minutes to get to the police station. This caused Izuku's eyes to widen. It was 8:45 and Rumi could see a lot of missed calls. I guess sleeping together will make us more lazy. Izuku joked, which then caused the two to laugh. Let's get ready, I will ask for Raphael and Zadkiel to take us there. They got everything done in 5 minutes and told the receptionist that they will be leaving now. After summoning the two shadow angels, they got to the police station in just over a minute. Luckily no air traffic, but the traffic on the ground was huge. Both jumped from the angels and landed on the ground near Kenji, the dog-head police chief. Where were you? Rumi rubbed the back of her head. Sorry, we overslept. He just shook his head. He then informed the two what will occur, as it was Izuku's first time. I will be doing the speaking, woof, whilst you two will stand behind me with Endeavor, woof. When the questions will begin, I want you to answer them. He then looked at Izuku. I know your quirk is hidden nearly all of the people, woof. So be careful, as the reporters can be cunning, woof. Hi. Izuku replied. Rumi then looked at her boyfriend. Don't mess up, I know you can be blunt, but this time try to be a little less. He smiled the loving smile she loved. I will try, sensei. He smirked, seeing the twitching eye of his girlfriend. Yeah, girlfriend does sound nice. Conference. The three powerful heroes and a police chief were looking at the crowd of reporters. Good morning everyone, I am Kenji Tsuragami, the chief of Hosu Police Department, woof. Yesterday 6 Nomus have attacked the city whilst the hero killer Stain was there too, trying to continue his work. We have interrogated Stain and he spoke that he isn't by any form a member of the League of Villains, woof. He was looking around at the crowd, then continued. Endeavor, Maruko, and her work-study student by the hero named Monarch was present in Hosu. With the help of his shadow army, the Nomu were dealt with quickly and the civilians rescued and healed. Woof. Whilst that was happening, Maruko and Monarch found Stain. The hero killer was about to murder of two UA students under work studies and a local hero. Stain was quickly apprehended by the two and put in prison. Woof. He then took a deep breath. Any questions? A lot of the reporters started to shout questions and raise their hands up. Kenji rose his hand up, quieting everyone down. You miss with the purple hair. She nodded. The video that was captured by an unidentified person yesterday. Endeavor, why would you try and harm a criminal who was already captured? Endeavor was a little pissed. Izuku and Rumi moved a little further from the heat he was producing. I will not comment. Next. How could he even say something? Enji knew that his anger can get the better of him, but yesterday was on another level of hatred, especially towards the young man standing near him. And I thought I was blunt. Izuku thought to himself. The chief pointed at a man with some weird eye color. How did Maruko and Monarch capture Stain? Rumi stepped forward. When we saw Stain, myself and Monarch were on the roof where we made a plan of action. Monarch would summon some of his ice bears to get the hero and the two UA students out of danger, with one of his angels healing them up. He would be the distraction for that moment, and when the guard of the hero killer was down, I jumped down and knocked him out. Then she stepped backwards. A different reporter shouted out, wouldn't it be dangerous for Monarch, even though he is a first-year UA student? She smirked at them. I am confident of the skill of Monarch. Another reporter now asked a question with the permission of Kenji. Monarch, what exactly is your quirk? You seem to have a lot of minor quirks with a major one. With a straight face, Izuku answered, I only have one quirk. He then remembered the warning of not being blunt. Any more questions will need to be asked Nezu, the principal of UA. But in the inside he smirked. I got you back, Nezu, after the said cheese-loving mouse took his cheese. With Nezu. It was only cheese. It only happened once. Nezu yelled in pain, knowing that there will be a lot of calls. Though he wondered when the HSPC would come, demanding answers. Continuing on. Kenji then spoke up, any more questions? And so it continued for another 10 minutes, where Izuku wasn't telling anything about his quirk, and neither did Rumi. There was a question from one reporter fan, Maruko, Monarch. This got their attention, are you two dating? Izuku nodded, but decided for Rumi to do the talking. We only recently started to date. She had a predatory smirk which indicated that Izuku is out of anyone's league. In front of 3 TV screens, 3 girls nearly went into tears. They needed to ask Maruko to allow them to join. But one of them had to be restrained by some fibers to not go to the conference and explode the rabbit. The conference finished 5 minutes later, where they said goodbye. The duo decided to get some breakfast and then travel to the Dragon Agency. Izuku thought the conference wasn't that bad, be there and look presentable, answer some questions, easy. Agency of the Dragon. It took around 30 minutes to arrive at the agency. The agency was in the brown color with tinted glass windows. It had a massive poster of the Dragoness herself with her own clothing brand Grégoire. When they entered they didn't see any interior walls, the area looked to be more of a Chinese-style building. The duo was allowed entrance to the top floor. When they left the elevator they met 2 people, Ryukyu and Najire-chan. It is good to see you, Ryuko, you must be Najire. She stated whilst hugging her old friend. Though when she was going to look at Najire, she was in Izuku's face sprouting questions. Ryuko could see Rumi's twitching eye, so not wanting to deal with a death, she pulled her apprentice back. The Dragoness spoke up, it is good to see you too, Rumi, I presume this is Izuku, right? Izuku then bowed in respect. Hi, Rumi told me a lot about you. But he was too thankful as the brunette was speaking to many questions. Oh my, I hope it was good things only. Rumi could swear she saw a spark of interest going through her friend's eye whilst looking at her boyfriend. What is your quirk? Can I see a shadow? How strong are you? What is with the fireballs? This was what was heard from Najire as somehow she got out of the grip of the number 9 hero. She was starting to poke him, but he just jumped away. You could see the pleading look on his face as Najire was following him, trying to ask questions. Troublesome woman, Izuku muttered to himself, fine, I'll answer some. A defeated tone was given, making the 2 older women laugh. But don't poke me. That is what happened in the next 30 minutes, they all introduced each other or more, showing whose apprentice is better. Rumi then asked, so why did you want us both here? Oh, about that, Najire was curious, and as she doesn't really ask for anything I accepted this request. She smirked at her friend. Yeah, Rumi had a lot of twitching eyes during this time. How about we go on some patrols or something? Then as fate wanted to fuck her, Izuku muttered, oh shit, not again. Everyone heard this as Rumi had her eyes widened, a blue portal sucked all 4 of them inside. But what they didn't expect was the blue entrance turning red. You have entered a gate. Red, for fuck's sake. Rumi shouted. They all got up from their ass and looked around. The area they got in was some kind of a clearing, all around was a dense forest where you could clearly see glimpses of water. Where the fuck are we? Ryukyu, who usually have an impassive face, asked, had one that said that she is scared. This is part of my quirk. I usually use keys to open these type of gates, but this time it opened by itself. From the looks of it, it's also a red gate. Izuku answered whilst looking around. Rumi then continued, the supposed key for this gate had some conditions. Zuku, do you think someone is messing with the system? They both had this theory that the system wasn't really a quirk, but something given for some reason. System? Nejire asked curiously. You are here already, but please don't talk about my quirk to anyone else. He looked straight into the eyes of both Ryuko and Nejire. When they both nodded, I awakened my quirk a couple of months ago, from All Might punching me to near death by accident. This caused both to gasp. I awoke the quirk that I nowadays call the system, which is nothing near to the original name. The system is like an RPG game where I can level up. After I reached level 40, I got a job change. This is where I met Rumi after she jumped into a portal where I will receive a change of job. The so-called gates are portals opened by keys, but one of my first ones opened like this too, where some people got sucked in too. Rumi nodded. They both looked at the two new arrivals in fascination. The gates appear for me to S ranks with a red and a double dungeons too. This original dungeon should be an A rank, but now it is a red gate, low S rank I think. Rumi gulped, but she allowed him to continue. In gates you have monsters which you have to kill. To finish a dungeon you need to kill the dungeon boss. I originally thought I can only make the gates, but apparently South Korea had the same portal spotted for some time where it opened and closed. Ryuko asked in a nervous tone, we can deal with an S rank right? Izuku smirked, I have my shadows to help. We also have two strong S rank heroines with Nejire being a high A rank. If we don't split up we should make it. But if you go to a different S rank gate, you will need as many S ranks as you can for the safety of the group. Rumi then added, also one day here is 1 hour outside. The newcomers had their eyes widened, beggar they could mutter a word they heard some kind of screams. Ryukyu and Nejire then came up to Izuku with Rumi not being far away. What is that? Nejire stuttered. The name of the key was Baba Yaga, so this must be Slavic mythology. Izuku answered, but after a couple of seconds they could see a black bird with a female head fly above them with some screaming coming to her. Izuku had his eyes widened, that is a high A rank monster, alchemist. Alchemist. Then the four heard a roar and some movement in the forest. Not taking any chances, Izuku said two words, come forth. With that 191 shadows came from Izuku and gone around Izuku in a protective manner. Deal with them in groups, Raphael and Igris Day. They all bowed and left to engage the enemy, whilst the 12-winged shadow and the knight stayed surrounding the four. Wow. Nejire spoke. But when a couple of laughs were heard she jumped onto Izuku for some reason. I am staying, I hate forests. I don't blame you, if I remember right from Slavic mythology, when the sun sets it will be worse. Izuku stated. What should we do? Ryuko asked, not sure what to do. Rumi took command as she saw Izuku concentrate on something, let's make camp. But when she looked at Izuku she froze, his eyes were widened and his breaths were uneven. Leshy. We must run. My shadows that are under night ranked are being defeated with ease, only Baruka isn't struggling that much. We must get to a safer area. The three eyes widened as they saw a large humanoid wood figure that would scare anyone. It had antlers made of wood and was taller than Igris by a fair bit. Leshy. It was a light red name, Igris, Raphael protect the three. With getting Nejire off him, he used the skill. Fireball and shot three large fireballs that the beast dodged. With the use of skill. Sprint and skill. Bloodlust he got behind Leshy and summoned his spear to kill it. Izuku's eyes widened when spear didn't even make a scratch on the neck of Leshy. Muttering shit, he used the skill. Stealth but Leshy was looking straight into his eyes even when he moved. He knew that the skill. Bloodlust didn't work so the skill was useless until he leveled it up once again. But with a quick moment of inattention, Leshy sped up to him and punched the side of his head, smashing his body to a tree. It took a couple of seconds of trying to get up when he did it and he barely missed the following drop kick done by Leshy. Leshy is using the skill. Call of the Wild. All monster type animals gain a 50% boost in stats when fighting with Leshy. The young man gulped, he could see low-ranked monsters around him like deer that had white names had a dark grey name on it. He wished he had his shadow army with him, netherless using the skill. Dominator's touch he pulled some of the minor monsters towards him and cut them down with his spear and dagger. Taking a second to look at the situation around him Izuku could see that Raphael was dealing with three alchemists. Nejire was shooting her beams towards the women birds with Rumi trying to kick them down. Ryuko turned into her dragon form and crushed one of them with her mouth. He smiled seeing Igris killing some of the minor monsters that tried getting close to the group. You have slain Alchemist X7. You have slain Leshy. You leveled up. You leveled up. Thanks guys, but I need to deal with this fucker too. Izuku thought as his stats increased by 1. Using the skill. Spear throw and then once again using skill. Sprint. He saw that Leshy moved his head and run with his enhanced speed towards Izuku. The Monarch speed was greater than the monster's, allowing Izuku to get into its guard and punching him away. Igris used this opportunity when Raphael was back with the girls and used his sword and Dominator's touch to speed up the speed of Leshy and cut his head. Izuku thought it was dead when the twig starts to move back together. He swore that luck was a skill as Baruka came in, and with a finishing blow of ice in between the bodily gaps it ripped out, killing it finally. You have killed Leshy. You have killed Alchemist X3. You leveled up. Skill. Spear throw leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. Wow, that was tiring. Izuku muttered, then looked at the rest of the team and sweat dropped. Most shadows came back with the heads of all alchemists and with the Leshy body too. I can extract 22 shadows, but save 10, I will have to level up whilst I can get all of them into my army. He nodded at them and said, Ryukyu, Nijire-chan, this is how I get my shadows, arise. Then the two newcomers saw the 12 dead monsters rise up becoming shadows. I need to level up as I can't store 2 of the shadows, but I can keep them until I level them up. You have upgraded the shadow. Leshy level will be 21, Knight, x2. Alchemist level will be 2, Knight, x10. The dragon woman spoke up, even though it is a little tiring, this will be a good exercise for us, as we don't usually have big battles. They are scary though. Nijire replied, also call me Nijire when we are not doing hero work. Izuku nodded at that. Yeah, let's get further away, I can hear more laughter and singing in the distance. He saw that most of his soldiers are around them. Angels patrol the sky with the new alchemists, 10 of you stay though. They nodded and spread out with Zakiel and Raphael staying, can you two patrol, but at a closer distance to us. With a bow they flew up. He saw the magicians close and smiled, you are LV.20, well done, I accept your upgrade. The 6 magicians bowed as their LV.20, elite, turned to LV.1, knight. The 6 of them were one of the key members in the army, and they were usually ones getting the most levels. 6 magicians leveled up from LV.20, elite, to LV.1, knight. Knights, elves and magicians, spread out and make a perimeter. Baruka, you are in charge of the expedition group that will include Beast, One Leshy, Fluffy, all monster shadows and the remaining angels. They bowed and they left towards one of the paths, the Nomus also went too. I guess we will need to find a place to camp. Izuku asked in a fake cheerful voice. The other 3 just deadpanned. Rumi spoke then, I agree, one of us needs to be awake whilst the others rest. I presume Igris will stay with us. Yes, the knights and elves will be watching in the trees around us. A shadowlash will too be near. The others nodded and traveled around 400 meters to find another opening, where a water source was near too. The sun was setting and Izuku got camping supplies out. There was one large tent that had 2 rooms, Ryuko and Nijire will share one, whilst Izuku and Rumi will share the other. In front of the tent is a fire pit that Nijire made whilst Ryuko and Rumi set the tent up. Izuku meanwhile was walking towards the pond to collect some water. They were located around 100 meters from the water, so it wasn't as bad. What the fuck, the waters, they had monsters that were uglier than Leshy. There were 2 kinds of monsters, red names and a dark orange names. What the fuck, the waters, they had monsters that were uglier than Leshy. There were 2 kinds of monsters, light red names and a dark orange names. The orange names had a figure of a skinny female with shaggy wet golden hair, her eyes were blank, scaring Izuku a bit. Her feet had more of a fin appearance, probably to allow her better mobility in water. The name of this monster was Rusalka. The other one made frog noises as it was a frogman and all but name. Izuku could see the top part of the body, but it still meant the monster was tall. It looked like a frog and their name was Adinoi. Stay in the camp, girls. The 3 women looked at the monsters, and Nijire started to protest as she could help. Nijire, you have the only long-range ability that is the most trained out of the 4 of us. I can sense some monsters being around us, but my shadows are dealing with them. She reluctantly nodded whilst still looking at Izuku. He knew the 2 heroes also wanted to help, but they couldn't due to them not being able to deal with water, which he understood. No one knew what was deeper. Izuku knew he leveled up 4 more times, thanks to Baruka and his party mainly, but also the patrols dealing with minor monsters which even the bison could occasionally defeat. Behind him Zadkiel and Raphael appeared. Can you 2 deal with them? I will help long ranged. They nodded and started to fly above them. Suddenly the 7 Vodunoi started to collect water around them and shot them to the angels. The Rusalka, which numbered 26, helped with their minor water ability. Luckily the 2 angels had some spells that could defend them. During this time Izuku used his skill Spear Throw to shoot some of the monsters down. You defeated Rusalka x5. You defeated Vodunoi. You leveled up. I gotta love my spear skill and the S-rank spear. Izuku thought. He used the skill Dominator's touch to bring another Rusalka towards him. She tried to use a water attack, but it was blocked by Izuku. The two angels were in a shooting battle where the duo were winning by a bit. Some more angels joined the fray, which allowed 12 more Rusalka to be killed. You defeated Rusalka x12. Using this opportunity to get another more shadows to turn the battle to their side even more, arise. With that, 1 Vodunoi and 15 Rusalka arose. Alarm. Shadow extraction limit is full, level up to gain more space. But that being said, the 16 additional shadows did turn the minor war to their favor even more. With the high water manipulation of the frog monsters, they were getting more damage done to the ones in the water. Meanwhile, the main camp was fully set up. Igris and the Leshy were worried about their liege but now had a different monster on their tail. The 3 women were all up and ready to battle when they saw the shadows around them being destroyed. 20 more alchemists arrived with 1 more Leshy in addition. They all gulped, but the shadow Leshy went up to the natural Leshy, whilst Igris went towards the alchemists. Some of the surrounding shadows came too with some angels up above. Rumi and the 2 companions decided that Najire and Ryuko will help Igris whilst herself will help the Leshy. The battle in the air was interesting. The alchemist used mainly voice attacks and their wings to slash and defend. Whilst the angels that had 4 and 6 wings used their minor elemental magic, but mainly light magic with weapons to cut them down. The Leshy was being overwhelmed, but all was not going well with Rumi. The enhanced strength and speed of the wooden monstrosity could barely be at her speed, but the strength was greater, and the punch she received to her forearms nearly cost her her arms. It only was after 2 minutes when all of the 20 alchemists were defeated, the attention of Igris changed to the monster. It took another 10 minutes to kill it off. Izuku had to deal with that. Baruka would be useful with his ice. Rumi admitted to herself. Luckily for Izuku, with the defeat of the 21 monsters his level jumped up twice. 4 more spaces added up. I need to get my save shadow to 231 for this to properly work. Izuku muttered. He was happy that he is getting aquatic creatures as his soldiers, but he thinks he would need more night level and higher foremost. After the defeat of the other Leshy, more shadows came in and helped eradicate the survivors. It was a miniature massacre to be truthfully honest. You defeated Rusalka x9. You defeated Vodunoi x6. This furthered his level by 3, giving his level 95, only 5 more till 100, then he spoke to his shadows, put the bodies on one side, he was shut down when Izuku saw the notifications. You defeated Leshy. You defeated Rusalka x6. You defeated Vodunoi x4. You defeated Alchemist x11. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. He knew that his shadows were doing it, but damn, 3 levels more. I swear the system is popping it up in the most convenient time ever. With the addition of the 3 levels, he can have 6 more saved shadows and 29 extraction shadows on standby. He just smirked and walked up to the 15 dead monsters. Arise, most will be in the extraction realm, but you won't leave me, my friends, as when I will level up I will save you. He said whilst patting one on their shoulders, which later bowed to him. He came later to the girls and then arose the Leshy and 3 alchemists. Alarm. Daily quest getting ready to become powerful isn't completed. Incomplete, push-ups 0-100. Incomplete, curl-ups 0-100. Incomplete, sit-ups 0-100. Incomplete, squat 0-100. Incomplete, run 0-10 km. Warning. Failing to complete this daily quest will bring a punishment associated with this quest. Time remaining. 4 HRS, 0 min 38 sec. Rumi, I need to do my daily quest. She just laughed at him whilst the other 2 looked confused. When Izuku started doing it, she explained what it was meant by the quest. It only took surprisingly around 30 minutes. Completed, push-ups 100 100s. Completed, curl-ups 100 100s. Completed, sit-ups 100 100s. Completed, squats 100 100s. Completed, run 10-10 km. He just smirked at that and put the 3 additional points into intelligence. During this time he also leveled up by 1 level. Truly his shadows were amazing. He didn't add any additions yet to his army. He was hoping that Baruka and his group will get him to level 100. When he came back again to the girls, he produced some food where they ate at the fire and enjoyed each other company. Rumi was leaning on Izuku's shoulder. She truly was relaxed now, as Izuku said that Baruka and his party will be coming back soon, and all of the shadows will be close. The water monster shadows stayed in the water or near them, as it was their best bet beating any incoming monsters for their new liege. It was an addition that when they had a water source, it will be easier to attack than to produce water, which will take a longer period of time. When night fully arrived they all stared at the stars in amazement. It was a clear night sky with the stars being presented in all of their glory. They were apparently further north in the earthen hemisphere than when they were at Tokyo. Rumi promised herself that during summer she will take Izuku to Russia or Canada. There was a rumor that if you beat Vladimir, the #1 hero of Russia, then you get some prizes. You defeated Dark Vampire. You leveled up. Izuku's eyes widened. We may need to deal with vampires. Apparently one of my shadows killed a vampire. Damn, bloodsuckers. Rumi joked. Chuckling, hey Atlas, I reached level 100 now. This continued to make her laugh. The other two just shook their head. Congratulations. You reached level 100. You are now a high S rank hero by your own skills without your shadow army. Your daily quest has stopped. You can only level your stats by leveling up or via quest specific rewards. You have received 3 rewards. Reward 1. MP increased by 25,000. Reward 2. Each int and vit point value doubled. Reward 3. A gain of 100 more spaces per job specific skill. Reward 4A. Level a non-job specific skill. Reward 4B. Level a soldier by 10 levels. I bet you got some good stuff, what is it? Rumi asked curiously. Accept reward 1 then said, it said that I don't need to do the daily quest anymore, which will lower my chances of getting more keys. But all 3 could feel the mana being increased to a substantial level, then it was suppressed, chuckling sheepishly, my first reward was an extra 25,000 MP. Wow, so you can do more of your fancy skills right? Najira asked. Nodding, yeah, also my soldiers can be out for longer not being worried about their regeneration factor being affected. Though inside he spoke, accept reward 2. Then spoke up, my second reward that the individual stat points increase. Meaning if I increase my vitality it will increase my health by 40 not 20, my intelligence will increase by 10, not 5 per level. The trio nodded, it was understandable, the growth in theory will be exponential, but it will be harder to level up the higher you go. My third reward was an additional 100 spaces for save and extract shadow skills, which will definitely come in useful. They all agreed to that, even Ryuko a proud S rank, she didn't really think she could defeat even 10 alchemists at the same time, not even mentioning Aleshi. Lastly, I have an option in increasing a non-job specific skill by 1 or add 10 levels to a shadow. Add it to a shadow, the more powerful a soldier, then all of us will be calmer. Rumi answered. Your own skill leveling up would be useful, not in all situations you can rely on the shadows. Ryuko supplied helpfully. All eyes were on Najira, she gulped on the invisible pressure of choosing the decision, shadow. But upgrade Raphael, you will have 3 elite knight class shadows. After a couple of seconds of pondering he smiled, accept reward 3B, Raphael come close. The angel was happy that his master chose him. Coming closer, he bowed and Izuku said, give the 10 levels to Raphael, and accept promotion. Raphael has leveled up from LV.24, Knight, to LV.4, Elite Knight. The appearance didn't change much for Raphael, but he was taller and had larger black wings on his back. If the Seraphim could, he would cry at the generosity of his master. Izuku whistled, I will quickly get the other monsters under my rank. They all nodded and he left to do that. He walked off to get 17 more alchemists, a Vodunoi and 2 Rusalka, arise. He smiled gently at them, welcome to the family. Status. Name. Izuku Midoriya. Job. Shadow Monarch. Title. The one who overcame adversary, +2. Level. 100. Fatigue. 0. HP. 24,040. MP. 28,960. Strength. 254. Agility. 244. Sense. 219. Vitality. 234. Intelligence. 365. Remaining points. 0. Physical damage reduction. 13%, plus 40%. Physical pain nullification. 28%. It was just another hour when something interesting happened. Izuku took the first watch whilst the 3 girls went to sleep. He was sitting in front of the fire with Igris and Raphael sitting near him too. They all heard some noises but calmed down when it was just Baruka and his team. Hey Baruka, how was it? Izuku smiled proudly at his strongest soldier. The Elf King and the rest of the monster shadows with the angels all bowed down. Rise up, he saw the spoils of their battles and just smiled, thank you guys. He walked up to the dead bodies and inspected the dark vampire. He was impressed, it seemed that the final blow was given by Aleshi. There was a wooden spike coming from the heart part of its body. The vampire had a black cape going to his feet, silk black hair, and really pale skin. Arise. The 2 Leshi, 11 Rusalka, 7 Vodunoi, 16 Alchemist and the dark vampire all arose and bowed down. Izuku could clearly see the dark vampire had tints of red coming from its eyes, the mouth area had 2 long but apparently retractable teeth. Dark Vampire LV.16, Knight. Job specific. Shadow extraction, LV.1 and 304 358. Save shadow, LV.2 and 304 343. Izuku looked up to the vampire shadow, are there any more vampires? The shadow nodded. Are there any stronger ones than you? A nod was an answer. I want 3 Leshy, Igris and Raphael to come with me and the vampire. Everyone else please protect the trio. They all nodded, with Baruka with a little reluctance. Izuku noticed it, and with a light smile came to him and patted his shoulder. You have done amazingly, Baruka, rest up, but you are in command until I come back. He bowed in gratitude towards his liege. Izuku nodded and spoke up, let's head off. With the 7 now running towards where the vampire was pointing. The Shadow Monarch then whispered, I am sorry, but we will kill your kin. He saw the shadow dark vampire shake his head, and Izuku kinda got the feeling that the vampire was saying don't worry, weird. 40 minutes later. It was a shock to discover the vampire had an ability to turn into a bat, but it was fascinating nevertheless. When they stopped they looked at the building in front of them. It was a medieval European castle all built by stone. It had 4 towers and a large building in the center. However, the difference between the sky above the castle and the camp sky was as clear as day. The castle sky had clouds, dark gray thick clouds that obstructed nearly all the light. Izuku was lucky that being the Shadow Monarch allowed him to see during the night as clearly as in the day. The one thing that was missing in the previous description was when Izuku looked down, the castle was on a separate island with water all around it. Though the building was high up on the island that even walking up the cliff would be near suicidal. Luckily there was a bridge to cross, but one problem. A couple of vampires were guarding it. Izuku looked in his shop option a dagger for killing vampires. He smirked and bought a vampire killer dagger. It was also time to upgrade from the C-rank dagger, as it don't do much towards higher ranked monsters. Item: Vampire Killer. Item class: A. Type: Dagger. Attack: plus 400. Infused with a wood of cleansing and the effect of burn, the dagger perfect to kill vampires and all dark type monsters. Extra plus 75 attack on vampire opponents. It can be used, stored or sold. Effect: cauterization. Burns tissue of the opponent so their wounds won't regenerate. He twirled it in his right hand and spoke up in a whisper, Raphael, can you summon your fire when you are above them? Igris, the 3 Leshy, the vamps and I will enter during the chaos. I can sense a vampire in the elite night level, so be careful. They all nodded and started to prepare. When Raphael was in a high enough area, he used his holy flames to shoot at the castle. Izuku could feel the hot temperature from his place around 600 meters away from the angel. Smirking, the 6 then sprinted with their enhanced strength to the castle, whilst cutting the survivors to bits. The dagger was really useful. Vampires are only able to be killed when they are burned, stabbed in the heart with a wooden spike, or had their head chopped off. One vampire that wasn't burnt tried to attack Izuku, but with the use of the skill Dominator's Touch he used it to manipulate the body to make its head be cut off with his dagger. The 6 then split up with Izuku, finding an area with 3 dark vampires and 8 gothic vampires. The goths had actual weapons and looked similar to the dark variant, but their hair was usually put in some kind of bun. The 2 had some kind of eyeshadow around its red eyes. Using skill Bloodlust, Izuku could see that the stats was reduced by 50% for a minute. Using this opportunity he used the skill Sprint to cut the heads off whilst blocking some of the advancements of the gothic vampires. It took an extra 3 minutes when only 4 survived the onslaught from the one-man army. Using the skill Stealth he went undetected and cut one's head off, but at the same time used the skill Fireball to burn one dark vampire to death. The remaining dark vampire turned into a bat and got behind Izuku, where he slashed the back of Izuku with its elarge claws. Hissing in pain, he turned back and used skill Vital Strike 5 times as he was pissed not sensing his opponent. The remaining vampire also tried to escape with its enhanced speed, but with the repeated use of the skill Bloodlust it stopped in its track for a split second, which was its own demise. Smirking at his victory, Izuku drank a healing potion. He didn't want to use the last status recovery potion he had just yet. You defeated Dark Vampire X3. You defeated Gothic Vampire X8. Arise. Izuku smiled. 3 dark vampires and 8 gothic vampires arose. Izuku noted that the gothic vampires had a spookier weapon of choice with a dagger hidden in their cloaks. He also realized that they had spiky ears which wasn't seen clearly beforehand. Spread out and defiate the rest of the vampires. They all nodded and spread out. Izuku also noticed something shiny. It was an armor that he lacked but was useful anyways. Trousers of Darkness. Item class: A. Type: Armor. Plus 5 strength, plus 5 agility. 10% damage reduction. Born by vampires of all kind, it increased your strength and agility by 5 points. It has an additional bonus, it increases your natural stealth by 25% in dark spaces. Can be equipped, stored or sold. Smiling, he put it on. It wasn't anything spectacular but all black. He smiled at the increase of his stats and defense. Going further into the castle, the hair at the back of his neck tingled. Izuku then saw why. The corridor started to twist in a circular manner. The dark corridor with graying bricks and a carpet underneath was what should be seen, but no. Looking around to see what was happening, he saw a name tag with a light orange color. Castle-dwelling vampire. They looked more sickly but had a book of some kind in their left hand, whilst their right hand moved in a weird way. Realizing this was probably an illusion, he tried to run up to the monster, but hit a wall. Marveling at the powerful illusion, he wondered if pain will get him out of it. Brining his thumb to his teeth, he bit on it. Some blood oozed out, the illusion stopped, but also the vampire stopped. Smirking at that, using skill. Sprint, he went up to the vampire and killed it with the vampire killer. Arise. The lone vampire came out of its shadow. It looked the same as its living counterpart vampire shadows, but its skin shade was lighter. The book still stayed, but Izuku saw it wasn't moving as sickly as he originally predicted. He also noticed it had a dagger too hidden in its cape. Nodding, he continued forward, but was stopped by a massive roar and a plummet by 800 MP. A shadow of his was destroyed, but it was an elite knight. For a second he worried it was at the camp, but the mana drop would have been larger then. Using the sensing ability he had from the system, he tracked the source to be near him actually. It took 1 minute to get there, but saw Igris battling with a red name large vampire. Brand Elder Dracula. The red name, he must be an elite knight grade Atlas. Smirking, he summoned his spear and using the skill. Spear throw, however, it was for naught as the cape it had around protected it from his spear. Widening his eyes, Izuku paled, then he got the full view of the monster, a pale but kinda old looking face with a larger than normal nose and sharper teeth. Sprinting towards the monster with Igris next to him, they punched together where it was blocked by the forearm of the vampire. You could hear some snapping noises, but that was it if you ignore that the monster only moved by a couple of centimeters backwards. One of the Leshy came in, using its speed it tried to punch through the cape, but was caught and thrown onto a wall by the said monster it wanted to kill. Brand Elder Dracula is using skill. Darkness. Around 50 meters in radius around the Grand Elder, all vision becomes dark. Only he, Dracula, can't see. The duration is 1 minute. Gulping but closing his eyes, he concentrated on his hearing and the vibrations of the earth. The sensing capabilities have decreased by a significant margin. A slash was calming and dodging by the last second, with his own slash countering the attack. Izuku was pushed away and landed on his back, hissing once more as the wound wasn't healed properly. He rolled over to miss a punch that caused spider web cracks to form. Aleshi tried to punch it, but to no success, and only had some of its body destroyed. Igris had to deal with some other vampires that arrived on the scene. Izuku could sense that the darkness skill is slowly lifting, with that his senses increases allowing him to dodge the incoming attacks. He only wondered what the pain would have been if the nullification of pain wasn't at 28%. He loved the effect cauterization, as with one slash some forearm of Dracula, not even blood came out as it was burnt. Using this opportunity, he made 20 fireballs and shot them at Dracula. I think I will get wild, Najira, Izuku thought, as having the extra 25,000 MP was useful, as he just used 900 of it. What was impressive about the vampire though was its mastery over the shadows and darkness per se. When the fireballs tried to hit him, a wall of darkness appeared blocking them all. The Monarch looked at the transparent visage of Rocket Gauntlet, his first armor piece. The two effects don't even affect air rank monsters, and above, he could probably buy one, but sometimes he gets some armor from the monsters like he did some time ago. Using stealth he tried going behind it and slashing it, but the vampire turned around at the nick of time blocking it with his own dagger. A large holy flame was produced by the strongest angel in the army. Izuku could hear the scream of Dracula, but knew that this attack won't kill him. The Grand Elder came out of the fire with surprisingly a lot of burns, especially on its face, and exposed areas that are not covered by the cloak. Igris, not wanting to be left out, came from behind and slashed downwards. Once again, the cloak protected the monster from the slash. It tried to lash out with its shadow manipulation, but failed. Using the moment of distraction, Izuku with the help of Aleshi went between two sides of the vampire, and one tried to stab with its hand. When Dracula dodged that strike, Izuku used his lance of longinus with vampire killer on its neck, making it fly off. You defeated Grand Elder Dracula. If they thought that a moment of respite was given, more vampires came. Shorter versions of the Grand Elder as their names had a normal orange coloring above their head. Elder vampires. From the first clash, Izuku realized they were at night grade, which he was thankful for. The 4 elder vampires were dealt with by Izuku, Igris, Raphael, the 3 Leshy and the newly formed vampire army. He walked up to the Grand Elder and saw a couple of drops. An armor piece, some junk and a rune stone. Shadow manipulation. Item. Rune stone. No mana required. A skill gained from the Grand Elder Dracula. With your own shadow you can create anything your mind thinks of. The higher the level, the more powerful the shadow becomes. Do you wish to learn this skill? Yes, no. Yes, I guess continuing the theme of the Shadow Monarch is continuing. With that, a new notification came in as he crushed the stone in his own hands. Alarm. New skill had been learnt. Skill. Shadow Manipulation LV.1, active. No mana required. You can control shadows to capture, kill, or anything the mind want to. He then used the skill. Shadow Manipulation to make a spike appear from Izuku's shadow, then a rope-type object appeared. This is great. He then looked at the armor. Cloak of Protection. Item class. S. Type. Cloak. This cloak worn by Dracula, all of the area that it covers gives you complete protection up to S-rank attacks. This includes elemental attacks, sword attacks and punches. Can be equipped, stored or sold. Smirking, this will be useful good to be Izuku. Looking around, he saw that all dead bodies of the vampires have been collected. Now he realized that he risen his level by 11 levels within this castle. Firstly, he spoke the word, arise. With that, all of the vampire dead bodies have arisen, including Dracula. Walking up to the vampire Grand Elder, I will keep your name, Dracula. All of the shadows bowed with gratitude of being saved and be able to serve their liege. Izuku was too surprised seeing a new type of vampire, he couldn't help but have a small blush seeing the figure of the seductive sinning vampire. He could see that they had barely anything on. Some kind of underwear and tape-tacks on their nipples. If he didn't have the system, he sure would have passed out with blood lost. Their shadow form was the same as the original body, but their skin had a light blue tint to it, but had the original black tint where the nipples and the lower reagan was located. I think I know why they are called seductive sinning vampires. New shadows. 16 Gothic Vampire LV.14, Night. 4 Cadle Dwelling Vampire LV.5, Night. 27 Dark Vampire LV.16, Night. 4 Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.20, Night. 4 Elder Vampire LV.23, Night. Dracula LV.3, Elite Knight. Smirking, he looked at his skill level as it increased again. Skill. Bloodlust level increased from LV.2 to LV.3, active. But the use of 35 Mpiu can intimidate an opponent using strong energy for 1 minute, which includes the Stare of Fear reducing their stats by 50%. Several targets can be selected. Skill. Advanced Dagger Arts level increased from LV.3 to LV.4, passive. Due to the user preference to use daggers, you can use daggers more proficiently. When a dagger is used, the attacks gain 50% additional damage. Skill. Fireball level increased from LV.4 to LV.5, active. But the use of 40 Mpiu can use fireballs to attack. It can deal a maximum of 900 HP damage. Skill. Stealth level increased from LV.4 to LV.5, active. It requires 180 MP to activate and 6 MP per second to use it for a longer period of time. You become invisible to the naked eye with sound, smell, and presence erased. Let's get going back to the camp. Guys all nodded, but one thing Izuku that was different that the 4 seductive sinning vampires are trying to get him to a separate room. Izuku had his eyes widen at that and decided to walk faster, ignoring the smirks of the 4 female vampire faces as they wanted their master's young blood. Status equals. Name. Izuku Midoriya. Job. Shadow Monarch. Title. The one who overcame adversary, +2. Level. 111. Fatigue. 0. HP. 26,680. MP. 29,290. Strength. 270. Agility. 260. Sense. 230. Vitality. 245. Intelligence. 376. Remaining points. 0. Physical damage reduction. 14% plus 50%. Physical pain nullification. 29%. Skills. Passive. Unknown, max. Muscularity, LV.1. Advanced Dagger Arts, LV.4. Advanced Spear Arts, LV.3. Active. Sprint, LV.4. Bloodlust, LV.3. Fireball, LV.5. Vital Strike, LV.3. Stealth, LV.4. Dominator's Touch, LV.3. Spear Throw, LV.4. Healer, LV.5. Shadow Manipulation, LV.1. Job Specific. Shadow Extraction, LV.1 and 352/399. Save Shadow, LV.2 and 352/385. Shadow, Army Normal to Elite to Knight to Elite Knight. Great Siberian Bison LV.3, Normal. 40, 4 Winged Angels LV.8, Normal. 4, Low Tier Nomu LV.8, Normal. 8. Cherub LV.6, Elite. 33. Knight LV.8, Elite. 30. Power Angel LV.12, Elite, 6 Winged Angels. Drone Angel LV.13, Elite, Ringed Angel with Eyes. 20. Ice Bears LV.14, Elite. 10. Ice Elves LV.15, Elite. 37. Rusalka LV.16, Elite, Female Slavic Water Spirit. 2. Mid-tier Nomu LV.18, Elite. 20. Deathstalker Scorpions LV.19, Elite. 6. Magicians LV.2. 46. Alchemist LV.3, Knight, Slavic Bird Woman. 5. Castle Dwelling Vampire LV.5, Knight, Illusion Vampire. Fluffy LV.7, Knight, Alpha Ice Bear. 14. Vodunoi LV.8, Knight, Frog Slavic Water Spirit. 24. Gothic Vampire LV.14, Knight, Weapon Vampire. 31. Dark Vampire LV.16, Knight, Bat Vampire. Zadkiel LV.19, Knight, Dominion 10 Winged Angel. 4. Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.20, Knight. Beast LV.22, Knight, Upper Tier Nomu. 4. Elder Vampire LV.23, Knight. 5. Leshy LV.24, Knight, Slavic Forest Deity. Dracula LV.3, Elite Knight, Grand Elder Vampire. Raphael LV.6, Elite Knight, Seraphim. Igris LV.7, Elite Knight, Knight. Baruka LV.7, Elite Knight, Elf King. Izuku used the last status recovery he could get and went to the camp to look after the girls. He asked for all of the shadows to return to his shadow until they arrive at the camp, so it will be easier to not get spotted. It was nearly midnight when Izuku arrived, he could feel nothing attack the group, and he was glad about it. Not feeling tired anymore, he allowed the girls to sleep until the morning. It was around 7 AM when one of the girls started to wake up. The first person to get up was Ryuko. "Why didn't you wake any of us up?" she asked whilst looking at Izuku playing cards with Baruka, Igris, Raphael and the new addition Dracula. "Who's he?" "Oh, his name is Dracula, the leader of the vampires." Blinking, she asked in an incredulous tone, "So you?" "Yes, Igris, Raphael, a vampire, 3 of the Leshy and myself, had finished of all the vampires." "Ah, okay. Sleep well." "Surprisingly, yeah." Izuku passed her a cup of coffee, which she nodded gratefully. "So you do those gates with Rumi often?" "We only been in a handful of gates together, this is probably the strongest we have been in. If you ignore not being able to fight Raphael due to his true form, we fought against all of the stronger shadows bar Dracula together." She quirked an eyebrow at that as she sat down near Izuku. He continued, "This gate can be classified as an S-rank red gate. If it wasn't for my multiple shadows, and the 4 of us being at a high A to S-rank skill level wise, we would have not survived. Heck, even A-rank gates can cause S-rank heroes trouble." "I am guessing you are saying this from experience." "Yeah, I was a mid to high A rank where Rumi was around mid to highest rank when we had to fight Igris. He was an A rank opponent, but then we only defeated him mostly with luck." Izuku chuckled at the end of it. He could hear the light but melodic voice of Ryuko, but shook his head at that. "The media has seen that since the first sighting of you two going out together, she was getting stronger. Now I would say she is a high S rank where she was a mid S rank before you entered UA." Izuku nodded at that. He let her continue. "Yesterday, when we had to fight the Leshy, I was useless. Even in my dragon form I couldn't do anything. I am supposed to be a low to mid S rank top 10 hero, but even a high A rank monster. With a lower tone of voice, even Najire was more useful than me." After a second of thinking, Izuku replied, "Remember, this was your first time fighting this kind of a monster. Your hero costume isn't really designed for you to kill. Additionally, killing a villain should be a last resort, but killing a monster is your first option." He looked at her with a bright smile. "Rome wasn't built in one day, it will take time, but I know that you can become a high S rank hero that can kick ass like Rumi likes to say." He could hear her chuckling, regaining her happiness, not seeing her light blush. "Thank you," she whispered, but it was heard netherless. Little did she know that her friend Rumi listened into the conversation. After everyone woke up, seeing Najire coming out of the tent was something that made Izuku and Rumi laugh. Her hair was in a frenzy. It was everywhere and anywhere. Her beautiful long blue hair that was usually done up in a spiral in multiple locations was everywhere around her face. If Izuku didn't know well, he thought it might be a blue yeti. But the pout that came out made his heart clench with the power of cuteness. A dangerous weapon, in fact. "We have 2 options, search of the boss or wait until the boss arrives," Izuku stated after everyone ate breakfast. Rumi, Ryuko and Najire all thought for some time. "We might as well finish this gate as fast as we can. So far we have been away from the real world for 1 hour. One Rumi suggested. "That is fair, we can also practice some of our more destructive moves. Also I want to try my new skill." Shadow manipulation, as he said that some of the shadow tendrils came out wrapping around a tree, then snapping it. As usually, Najire had stars in her eyes looking at this display. How did you get it? How do you use it? It fits your theme, is that why you got it? It was a boss drop. The monsters can occasionally drop really interesting items like new skills, items or even armor. Izuku explained. This wasn't big news as they already collected some alchemist feathers and leshy bark. Rumi explained it can sell for a nice penny or even be useful to help with support equipment. Like those feathers, right? The bubbly girl asked, ignoring the rabbit hero. Yeah, let's start heading. If my predictions are right, then a witch will be the final boss of this whole gate. The others nodded and headed in a random direction. Izuku deployed some angels to scout out ahead with them were the alchemist for protection of the angels. Some time later. Proayak. The four of them heard. Izuku noticed that his mana was depleting at a small rate. He will need to get something to replenish his mana faster than 10 mana per minute, like the B-rank high magician's ring. There. Najire pointed out in a whisper. What came out was a frogman which was pretty tall. Great water spirit Vodunoi. An orange name appeared above its head. He must be around my level, meaning elite knight grade. Then to the girls, he is a low S-rank monster, otherwise for me known as an elite knight grade. He told them. We practically have 8 S-ranks with Najire being at the beginner S-rank level. Ryuko spoke, getting some confidence back from the dragon part of her quirk. Still, it is not to be underestimated. Rumi even told her, though she was excited to kick ass. Ryuko wanted to say something, but saw the tongue of the water spirit or the big ass Vodunoi heading towards her. Her reaction speed wasn't as fast as she would love, but the tongue was intercepted by Izuku having his spear and the new dagger out. Izuku was pushed back by an inch or two, smirking, attack. As if it was some kind of magic, most of the shadows run from Izuku's shadow towards the monster. Great water spirit Vodunoi is using the skill. Acid release. It can produce acid from a pH from 7 to 2 and shoot it at opponents. DSK. Some of shadows were destroyed from the attack, but he saw at the corner of his eye that Najire started to fly up and shoot her energy beams at the Vodunoi. Rumi used her dagger and the skill. Dominator's touch. After Ryuko got out of her shocked state, she transformed into her dragon form. Just after the acid attack, the three attacked in tandem with the help of some of the shadows. The Great Water Spirit Nyx was defeated with ease. Great Water Spirit Vodunoi was defeated. You leveled up. You leveled up. Well done, girls, the Vodunoi is dead. He announced with some pride in his voice, whilst walking up to the dead Nyx. But when Rumi looked where the acid hit, she gulped. We are lucky the acid didn't hit us. When the other two females looked where she was pointing, their eyes had widened. The area the acid hit had melted at least half a meter of the ground downwards. Shadow extraction can be used on this target. Arise. Izuku spoke to the downed body. You failed to extract the shadow. You still have 2 chances remaining. Spirit of the water, arise and lead the Vodunoi and the Rusalka. Shadow extraction was successful. The dark shadow came out with Izuku's helping hand. A tall figure a little taller than Igris came out. It was basically the dark version of the image above. It had light green shadows covering its front part, such as the belly, neck, etc., though its eyes had toxic green showing. Your name is, he was interrupted by guess in Ajire. Fisher. It was actually a good name. Fisher it will be. Fisher LV.1, Elite Knight, Great Water Spirit Vodunoi. But later on bowed head, Izuku then collected all of the shadows, bar some angels and continued forward. It was some time later when they heard some kind of laughing noises, with some large walking noises. The angels started to come lower towards the ground. The group realized that someone is in front and formed came in closer. They had to dodge wood attacks. The trees had some of their wood going towards them with a high speed to stab anything. Luckily the 4 had experience and dodged. The ground started to shake with some boulders flying towards them with walls being made to block them in. Rumi and Izuku jumped in front of the other 2. They kicked and punched the boulders thrown at them. Ahahaha, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. A voice came out of woods. Did you all hear that? Najire stuttered out. Izuku nodded. It can speak, it means it is a high-level opponent. The 3 nodded. You are all looking so young and tasty, especially the green-haired and blue-haired kids. For some reason this got Ryuko and Rumi to stand in front of the duo. You 2 think you can protect them? Even though the green one cannot defeat pounds number and dollar, let me kill you first. Who? The 4 asked in Unasian. Pounds number and dollar, seeing their confused faces, she just laughed. Finally showing herself by trees moving upward. On a hut made out of wood with chicken legs stood a woman with a noise that Pinocchio would be ashamed of. A skinny body with hairy forearms. Black messy hair with yellowing teeth. She wore some kind of dress that had some cuts and scrapes on it. She was holding a broomstick next to her. Her name was dark red, whilst the hut had an orange name. Chicked Cottage. Baba Yaga. Egg eyes, the cottage is also a monster. Everyone had some type of shock hearing the news. Haha, you will be tasty indeed. You are hiding your army though, let us both clash with our armies. She spoke up. Baba Yaga is using skill. Reanimation. Similar to a necromancer, whenever someone dies and its soul stays, then she can control them to do her bidding. From the ground all around them rose up different beings, from the monsters they fought to people. Children, adults, pets, even horses were there. If one could guess, there would be over 1,000 of reanimated corpses there. Smirking, come forth. He knows that those corpses cannot be arisen, so he can allow all shadows to go all out, attack. In a place humans can't understand. Time is getting closer and closer, the more gates you open the faster it will arrive. The being said, but you will have less gates for a while, so master yourself and your army Izuku Midoriya. The man then looked at a different perspective of a different area of space and time. Millions of monsters, all different shapes and sizes, insects to dragons all in hibernation, but slowly being awoken. He wished he could do something, but he was bound by his creator to watch. He did collect power at a slow rate, which when he got enough, he did help one Izuku Midoriya, knowing Earth needed a strong warrior. Katsumi. Damn, why isn't he answering calls? Don't tell me. Then in her mind, he is in a gate. Oh my, your hair is unruly again. We need to fix it. For fuck's sake, what is wrong with my hair? It seems not only hair is a problem, young lady. He gave a pointed look as even today when the duo went to patrol, she made some kids cry. With the group. It was 20 minutes from the start of the reanimated corpses being arisen. The shadows were the ones dealing with the undead army with the help of Ryukyu. Izuku with Rumi and Nejire were mainly concentrated with the witch. Using the skill. Sprint, Izuku went close to her to give her a punch with Nejire shooting energy beams at 80% and Rumi doing a lunafall. The witch smiled and raised her hand, causing a light green magical barrier protecting her from the 3 attacks. Getting back, Izuku gave a fatigue potion to Nejire as her attacks consumed stamina. With a grateful nod she drank it and her fatigue was down by a lot. Haha, you cannot even touch me. She sent out wood spears towards them from nearby trees. With Dominator's touch, Izuku caught all of them and shot them back towards the granny. He also realized that the shadows were at a standstill with only some of them actually being able to defeat the corpses. It seemed that the Throne Angel with Zadkiel and Raphael were the only ones that could get them down. It also seems that 3 of your soldiers are able to successfully defeat my army. We cannot have that, can we? But that the rush towards Zadkiel, Izuku intercepted her movement and took the broomstick away from her. He could see the anger in her eyes. Baba Yaga is using the skill. Earthshaker. Before anyone could move, the earth started to shake violently. The trees started to fall down and cracks appeared on the ground. The cottage that nearly everyone forgot jumped towards Ryuko to kill her off. In a split-second decision, using sprint he rushed towards the dragon quirk user. Ryuko, move out. Rumi shouted. When she turned to look what was happening, she stopped in fear as the spiky claws of the cottage were close to her. Her eyes were closed but nothing touched her. Opening her eyes she saw a figure protecting her. Izuku caught up some blood, having one of its claws directed in his stomach as his cape couldn't protect him from the front properly. Glad you are alright. He said with a light smile whilst blood was coming out of the corner of his mouth. She could clearly see the nail in his stomach. He reared his right fist and punched the hut with all his might, breaking the building. Chicken Cottage has been defeated. He leveled up. Coughing up some more, he leaned forward, but Ryuko caught him. Using healer, a green glow started to come out of his hands as he started to heal himself up. I am sorry. She muttered to him constantly. Don't worry, that is what friends are for, right? He smiled weakly as his healing skill isn't healing him fully. He then bought a healing potion and drank it. It wasn't the most powerful, but it accelerated natural healing by x 25 times. Skill. Healer has leveled up from LV.5 to LV.6. She just hugged him. Whilst that was happening, Baba Yaga was a little angry. She was pissed, her home was destroyed. You will pay for that. When she started to rush at Izuku, Igris intercepted her with his sword, but she cracked the earth under him to capture him, but didn't expect some force to pull her towards the soldier. The gyre flood with it a maximum output was shot out, being 100% towards Baba Yaga. She wasn't fast enough to block it, so she was sent backwards, hitting multiple trees, but was kicked from the back by Rumi, who saw Izuku nodding at her, and kicked the witch towards Izuku. Getting out of the Empress, he materialized the Spear of Longinus, and with spear throw threw it directly through the witched woman's chest and out of her head. Baba Yaga has been defeated. You leveled up. You leveled up. Skill. Spear throw has leveled up from LV.4 to LV.5. Oops. But all of them started to laugh how they finished it. The reanimated troops then started to fall down one by one. You okay though? Rumi asked whilst walking up to Izuku. Yeah, I had to buy a potion as my healing skill couldn't properly heal everything yet, though it did upgrade. Izuku finished the sentence with Rumi hugging him. He just hugged back and kissed the top of her head, which caused her to smile. The portal appeared allowing the four to leave. Izuku quickly went to the hut and it did arise, but when he went to Baba Yaga, even with 3 attempts he could get her to arise. A sour mood came over him, but it was quickly forgotten by Nezu barreling down on his back. He just shook his head as he heard some light snores coming from the girl on his back. He then looked at the shadows with some kneeling before him. I approve of your promotions and well done everyone. He smiled at them with some of them glowing and going back to his shadow. With that Izuku got out of the gate only being gone for nearly 2 hours, but nearly being killed during this raid was something he still needed to think about. Dickin Cottage LV.1, Night, Moving House. Shadow Army level up Great Siberian Bison LV.3 to LV.5 normal. 44 Winged Angels LV.8 to LV.9, normal. 4 Low Tier Nomu LV.8, normal, to LV.1, elite. 8 Cherub LV.6 to LV.8, elite. 33 Knight LV.8 to LV.10, elite. 30 Power Angel LV.12 to LV. 14 elite, 6 Winged Angels. Drone Angel LV.13 to LV.16, elite, ringed angel with eyes. 20 Ice Bears LV.14 to LV.16, elite. 10 Ice Elves LV.15 to LV. 16 elite. 37 Rusalka LV.16 to LV.17, elite, female Slavic water spirit. 2 Mid-tier Nomu LV.18 to LV.19, elite. 20 Deathstalker Scorpions LV.19, elite, to LV.1, night. Dickin Cottage LV.1, night, moving house. 6 Magicians LV.2 to LV.3, night. 46 Alchemist LV.3 to LV.4, night, Slavic bird woman. 5 Castle Dwelling Vampire LV.5 to LV.6, night, illusion vampire. Fluffy LV.7 to LV.9, night, alpha ice bear. 14 Vodunoi LV.8 to LV.9, night, frog Slavic water spirit. 24 Gothic Vampire LV.14 to LV.15, night, weapon vampire. 31 Dark Vampire LV.16 to LV.17, night, bat vampire. Zadkiel LV.19 to LV.21, night, Dominion 10 Winged Angel. 4 Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.20 to LV. 21 night. Beast LV.22 to LV.23, night, upper tier Nomu. 4 Elder Vampire LV.23 to LV.24, night. 5 Leshy LV.24 to LV.25, night, Slavic forest deity. Fisher LV.1 to LV.2, elite knight, great water spirit Vodunoi. Dracula LV.3 to LV.4, elite knight, grand elder vampire. Raphael LV.6 to LV.8, elite knight, seraphim. Baruka LV.7 to LV.8, elite knight, elf king. Igris LV.7 to LV.9, elite knight, knight. They all had jumped out of the gate into the office of the number 10 hero Ryukyu. Damn, home sweet home. Ryuko muttered. Rumi put her arm around hers saying, first proper S-rank gate completed. Proper? Najira asked. Yeah, me and Zuku had done a tower kind of gate. Rumi spoke nonchalantly. You couldn't get Baba Yaga right. Izuku just nodded, I won't lie, but she gave me the creeps, at least I have a moving house. Chuckling was heard from the end. Are you sure you don't need to be checked up on? Ryuko asked as she was still worried. He pulled up his shirt up and showed the small scar, I will have a scar until I go to sleep. He answered, not seeing 3 blushes even though one was his girlfriend. Let's rest for some time and we can get some food later on. It was still Wednesday and Izuku had his work studies until Sunday. Rumi knew that Izuku could be ready in less than 20 minutes, but she wanted to celebrate the completed gate. Sure. Nodded the Midoriya of the group. That would be great. Najira spoke up. Definitely. With that said the 4 relaxed for some time joking around what had happened. With Nezu. Nezu was with Kenji Tsuragami sitting on one couch, in front of them were 4 people. Shoto Todoroki with his father Enji Todoroki and Tenya Iida with his older brother Tensei Iida. The 2 pro heroes had a little fearful expressions as both of them knew that if you messed with Nezu, then you are fucked. Though Enji had to wonder how old Nezu really is as he was the principal before he even began UA. Breeding. Thank you for coming. A cheerful Nezu spoke up. Some news came to me about 2 of my students. Then the voice changed into a serious and a no-shits tone. From the reports you 2 have nearly committed a crime against another one of my students and a subdued villain. Endeavor, you will be dealt with the HSPC, but the 2 of you are lucky. How sir? Tenya asked being curious. Whilst you had to listen to Izuku reprimand you. You could see a shiver going down his spine. The two of you can be expelled from UA for the acts, and young Shoto can even be put in a rehabilitation center. This caused the four eyes to widen. Enji continued, that was my original idea, but Nezu had a different punishment in mind. You would have been on a probation of 3 months, but as the video was produced different measures had to be done. Nezu then finished, both of you will have to write an essay about heroes' laws and regulation. The both of you will be helping in a homeless shelter for 200 hours each. Thirdly, you will be visiting Hound Dog weekly. Lastly, for the first week after you come back you are suspended to go to class, meaning you are only allowed to stay at the dorms. Am I understood? There was an underlying message, if you don't agree then you both will be kicked out. Tensei and Tenya both bowed their head, with the younger one of the two speaking up, I accept this punishment sir. Enji lowered his head with Shoto too doing it, I too sir. Though saying it through gritted teeth. With a joyful tone of voice Nezu continued, that is great. Endeavor, ingenium. Neither of you are allowed to take them on any patrols, but you can teach them in your agencies. Understood, sir. Hi. The both replied. Now how do I get back Izuku, that cheese was delicous though. Nezu mused to himself, not noticing his mouth started to water. But the four of them had just arrived at a fine dining restaurant. Ryuko had a Chinese-style dress that showed off her left thigh. Nijire had a blue dress that accented her eyes and hair. Rumi had a black dress that showed off her back. Izuku had a black jeans with a white shirt. The restaurant serves more traditional food, but had more of a posher style. They got a table for 4 with Rumi and Izuku sitting on one side whilst Nijire and Ryuko on the other side. The 4 continued to chat and laugh, once again all of them ignored the surrounding where people were looking at them in wonder. Do top 10 heroes with their students. Most people know that Ryukyu had a sidekick student names Nijire-chan and Maruko had a student boyfriend sidekick names Monarch or Izuku Midoriya. When the waitress came to ask what they wanted, the 2 heroines ordered some sake whilst the 2 students got some juice. One of the rules of UA was that they could not drink any alcohol whilst being a UA student, even though Nijire technically could with her age being of 18. They got a kaseki, a multi-course dinner which was one of the restaurant's speciality. It was only after 30 minutes when the 2 full licensed heroines started to get a little tipsy, much to the embarrassment of the 2 younger charges. During the time Izuku and Nijire started to talk whilst the older females drank and ate. How strong is Mirio then? They were on the topic of UA's big 3. He recently reawoke, a new part of his quirk that allows him to be physically stronger and faster. Ah, that is interesting, I would love to spar against him. You should, we all know that if you send in your full-on army then you would win. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck at that statement, but a 1v1 would be fun to watch. Even though his original part of his quirk permeability is a weak tier quirk, he made it strong. I don't doubt it, with him having been trained in UA most weak tier quirk can become high tier. Izuku spoke wisely. It caused her to giggle, this kind of conversation continued for some time. After some comfortable silence, she spoke in a quieter voice, I am glad to have met you, the experience in the gate was amazing but frightening. It also showed me that I need to have another attack at the different outputs of my quirk. Not mentioning, you didn't tell me that I am weak or that I cannot do things from my airheadedness. With a gentle smile Izuku replied, life is a learning experience. If you ever need any help with training, just come to 1A top floor that is where I live. With an unnoticeable blush she spoke, thank you, I will. This continued for another hour where they paid and left. Rumi was too drunk to even walk, and Izuku placed her on his back. Ryuko was tipsy, but her tolerance to alcohol is legious better than Rumi's. Izuku even asked if to heal them, but they shook their heads. Ryuko asked, you two want to stay at the agency? With some slur in her voice. Izuku being the conscious one out of the 2, thanks, it would be way better. Though we do have the moving house. This caused the 3 to laugh whilst Rumi snuggled closer to Izuku. For some reason Nijire had a pang in her heart seeing it. Later when they got to the dragon's agency, Nijire showed Izuku the room, and with that they said goodnight and fell asleep. Sunday, 4-day time skip. The day after the dinner, they all started working as usual. Izuku healed the migraines both the older women had, Rumi kissed him with Ryuko nearly kissing him, remembering that he is in a relationship with Rumi. The next days, Izuku was mainly patrolling with Rumi, Nijire or occasionally with Ryuko. He occasionally flew on her whilst other times he asked Raphael if he could ride on his back. He didn't want to ask Alchemist as it would be weird seeing someone riding on a shadowy figure of a bird with a woman's head. The news of the 4 teaming up had even hit the headlines. Ryukyu was known to only have one proper sidekick being Nijire-chan, nearly the same with Maruko and Monarch. One of the headlines was that they stopped a gang war, 2 drug rings that had beef with each other selling trigger. It was short-lived when Izuku's shadows descended on the 2 sides knocking them out or scaring the living daylights out of them. Now the last day arrived, Izuku and Rumi came back to her house where they sparred and talked. Night came and Izuku was at the door with Rumi seeing him off in her oversized hoodie. "I guess I will be seeing you." "You will definitely." She hugged him, which he reciprocated. "I will be coming to UA in some time, so just beware of hidden attacks." Hi, I gotta go, but I love you bun bun," he said, leaning down. Leaning up, she spoke before they locked their lips. "I love you too, Zuku." A passionate kiss occurred between the two new lovers. After their tongue battle, Izuku spoke up. "I will be going to Heaven's Tower. If you want, you can come with me again. I cannot wait to kick more angels' ass." Chuckling, he leaned in for a peck on the lips and waved goodbye. "Damn, I love that man." That was her thought as she watched him leave. "UA. Hey sensei, how was your week?" he asked, seeing Izawa first. He just grunted a respawn, also catch. "Patching a bottle, what this?" he asked in a curious tone of voice. "It should help you with your insomnia, but it also helps grants a minor healing factor, making your body more relaxed." The next moment, Izawa took the full bottle of it, and in the seconds to come, you could see his eyes having less blood vessels, and the posture straightened up. But the small smile that was rare from the man. "Thanks, problem child." "No problem, just call me when you need more." With that, he handed 4 more bottles to him. "Oh, and only drink 1 a day." With that, he said goodbye to his homeroom teacher. "Oh, and well done with stain." "Thanks, sensei." With that, he walked off whilst Izawa was ready to go on his patrol. In the dorms was a different story altogether. Chaos, the kitchen was on fire, some of the floor was flooded, and the furniture seemed to be hit with a tornado. When Izuku came and saw that, he released the full brunt of his aura, stopping all of the students in the dorm. "I just came back and the first thing I see is all of the floor being destroyed." Everyone was sweating. Now they saw what Heian said, that when Izuku released his aura, then it seems like you are walking in the presence of the top hero in a country. Izuku looked around and spotted Momo. "Momo. Please tell me what happened." She gulped, seeing that she was called upon. Also, her being vice president kinda made her too expected. How should I say it? With the unimpressed look that Izuku was giving her, she finally relented. "A pervert was here." Blinking, Denki. Ignoring the shout of "What man?" Shaking her head. "No, a grape-headed boy named Minoru Mineta. I think he is from 1C. "And, where is he?" Izuku spoke in a calm manner. This sent shivers down all of Class 1A's backs. This was a reason everyone was downstairs, so they could clean up before their class president came. Mina answered him this time. "That perv run of." She spat it out. Nodding. "Okay, I will deal with him in a second. But why is the kitchen still on fire?" Izuku asked with an undertone. "Katsumi blew him into the kitchen." Kyoka answered, receiving a pointed look from that said teen. He then looked at Katsumi. "And you didn't kill him? Are you getting soft?" This caused some of the class to chuckle, but Katsumi had some tick marks on her face. "I wish, that bastard nearly got into my room." She spat out. But the sweet smile that caused all of them to sweat. "Okay, come forth Vodinoi. Please put out the fire." Then turning to the door, he spoke to his shadows. "Come forth Leshis, Rusalkas, Baruka and a power angel." With those came out over 43 shadows. "Hunt down Minoru Mineta. 1C, scare the living shit out of him for him to shit himself a couple of times. Don't kill him, but you do whatever you think is necessary. You have a healer on hand. Go." With a bow and all seemingly to have a sadistic smile on their faces therein. At night there was one noise that was heard all over UA. This was music to the ears of 1A females. Izuku though did meet with Shoko and Heian properly. After the downstairs was cleaned up, Izuku got sushi of all different kinds to share with everyone. All of them talked about the work studies. Tenyu told everyone about his punishment and with the male twin of Shoko. To say Shoko was happy about her brother was an understatement. Everyone congratulated Izuku about his relationship with Rumi, much to the ire of Katsumi and the other 2 girls who lived on the top floor. In an alleyway. "I wonder what you would look like with blood, Izuku-kun." A kinda deranged voice was heard from a cute 16-year-old with 2 messy buns. After her Stainy was captured by Izuku and Rumi, a new obsession came to her. She finished stabbing a man and drank his blood. Bah, his blood is shit. The next day all of the 20 students were in their seats waiting for their teacher to arrive. It was shocking not seeing the sleepy man no tired that much. The bags under his eyes had been reduced and he didn't seem as grumpy as usual. "Good, you learn fast." He was talking about them being quiet. "We will be going over everyone's reports on their work studies for the first period, then you will have English with Mick." He droned on. The only such person who wasn't attending the lesson is Tenyu from his suspension for the week. There was some chit-chat, but Izawa handed everyone their own reports. "I am going from the top downwards." He then began with Toru, the light hero. "Illusionist was proud of your work ethic and commitment. He is congratulating you for your quick thinking and relaxes. Your hand-to-hand combat was really good for someone without a strength enhancer, and that your quirk fits well with his. He suggested that you improve on your speed and that you continue with the idea you came up with. Well done. Thanks sensei. She cheered with her invisible body. Next Katsumi. You could hear her saying fuck, you need to work on your behavior and your hair. He asked but he heard Izuku snicker, he'll ask him later on about that. You have promise especially with your agility whilst using your quirk, but you lack finesse. She just snorted at that. Shaking his head he continued, Izuku, we practically saw what you did on TV all week round. He received nods from everyone. Maruko only recommends that you work on unarmed combat. You have the strength, but some villains need a lighter punch than what All Might can produce. Izuku just sweat dropped at that. Hi sensei. With that he continued with the everyone. Heian was told to improve her reflexes, Shoko was told to try releasing as much ice with control for as long as she can. Mizo was asked to see if he can actually enlarge his sense organs, etc. Hero class. All Might came in like a normal person again through the door. Good afternoon students, welcome back from your work studies. Wow, it's his Bronze Age costume. So retro. I think he is losing his sticks. Definitely. Going up to the podium, firstly I am not losing my sticks, secondly today we will see what you are made of, but with 1B. We will be joined by Aizawa and Ken for this exercise. What kind of exercise are we doing sir? One of the students asked. Putting his hand up with a card, rescue race, meet me in training ground beta. With that he left like a hero should. But that being said they went to the changing rooms, whilst being in the changing room Ijiro asked, Izubro what does the crescent moon represent? This got everyone's attention as they looked at the right sleeve of Izuku seeing the yellow crescent moon. With a small smile he told the group, this is the same moon that Maruko has, it's more of me showing that I am working under her. Though the moon mostly represents her Luna attacks. Ah, that is so manly. Ijiro spoke with some tears, Izuku just sweat dropped. Man, you are lucky you got Maruko. Denki said. Yeah I am, it all started by her asking me out for some dinner after I kicked her ass. Some of them just blinked, Izuku kicked her ass. The blonde continued on a slightly different topic, there were only a few good ones in our class. Izuku tilted his head, a few. I thought all of them were good ones. He said that in a confused manner. Ah you seem not to be with me, I will teach you everything about Breas, there was some explosions, ice and some other things being heard from the next door. Then a shout from Katsumi, Denki Kaminari if you teach Izuku about those topics, then I won't miss purposefully like I did with the grape-haired. Hi. Was the only reply from Denki who had a frightened look on his face. What was Denki about to teach me? Izuku asked no one in particular. Hiro shouted from the next door, don't listen to the yellow buffoon Izuku. Oh okay. With that the two groups started to leave towards ground beta. Ground beta. 1A was chatting with each other whilst waiting for the instructor and 1B. Then they heard a voice that they didn't think they will hear so soon, look at those losers, haha you were only invited here to let 1B show how much more powerful they are in comparison to 1A. The students of that mentioned class just glanced at Monoma and then continued to talk to each other. Leaving a sobbing Nito. All Might entered with the two class teachers behind him, alright students, you all have finished your work studies, and now we will test how much you have improved. We will be doing a rescue race. Isetsu Awase asked the following question, wouldn't it be better to do it in the USJ? Shaking his head, not today, heroes will have moments when they need to find a trapped person or even a missing person in a city. The two classes nodded, as there are 38 of you we will be splitting it up in groups of 5, whilst the last two groups will be groups of 4. Aizawa continued, it will be a random selection, this may include students that are orientated with speed, so don't be down if you won't be first. Sekijiro Ken, or also known as the Blood Hero. Vlad King spoke up, let's show class 1A what we are made of 1B. He cheered his class on whilst ignoring the other students' look of disbelief. All Might coughed in his hand, the first group will be Katsumi Bakugo, Kasei Tsuburuma, Jiroda Shishida, Kyoka Jiro and Rikido Sato. The small bots will show you where you will start, when you hear my voice then you can start. They all started to leave when conversation started to start, who do you think will win Izuku? Shoko asked. I don't know much about 1B, but it could be Kaken or Jiroda. He replied soundly. Being curious Heian asked, how come? This made even Nito listen in. From what I have seen 1B doesn't have a lot of power types like 1A does, but they have more specialized types. Jiroda has a mammal quirk which usually give them enhanced speed. Kaken can fly with her explosions, whilst Rikido can run, but he needs to find All Might which will be harder for him. From what I remember Kasei has an air quirk, not similar to Inasa which can give some advantage in heights. Lastly Kyoka, she has enhanced hearing allowing her to pinpoint All Might's location. With this I deduced it will be either Jiroda or Kaken. Inasa walked up to Izuku and placed his large hand over Izuku's shoulder. I agree with Izuku. Your deduction skills never cease to amaze me. Thanks Inasa. The race between the five was simple enough, as Izuku predicted Jiroda and Kakin had the lead for most of the race, with only Katsumi winning by 4 seconds. The third place was surprisingly Kyoka, with Rakido coming in fourth only 8 seconds after her. Lastly Kasei Kanon last but only 6 seconds after Rakido. The matches continued when the second to last match names appeared. Izuku Midoriya, Heian Cha, Shoko Todoroki and Nido Monoma. You could hear Izuku laughing at the twist of fate, who would think that the enemy of 1A will be facing some of the most powerful students in that class. Nido secretly touched 4 people. He tried to touch Izuku as well, but when he tried to touch him a lot of eyes appeared looking murderous at him. This made him gulp and touch someone else. People always assumed that he could only copy 3 quirks with the 3 stopwatches he has on his costume. This wasn't true though, he could copy 4 and hoped he could copy 5 in the future. The 4 got into their places and when All Might shouted, help they started. Izuku used his skill. Sprint ran to where he sensed All Might. Heian used one of her swords to levitate and rush to the minuscule image of All Might. Shoko used ice to push herself towards the sound. Nido though used Inasa's wind quirk, Katsumi's explosions, Achako's gravity which was the hidden one and lastly Jiroda's beast quirk. This gave him a quirk start and with the non-existent weight and the speed given by the wind and explosions, he rushed towards the number 1 hero. Izuku could sense that someone is rushing quickly behind him, but he didn't care. Why? He was with All Might for at least 50 seconds talking. It was surprisingly a tie between the last 3 contestants all panting and sweating, not wanting to be left behind by any other. Hahaha, well done you 4. Go back and the next group will be announced. That was impressive Nido. Izuku commented much to the confusion of the said person, wasn't 1A full of assholes. But the group. That was fast. Kyoka commented. Agreed, it seems that his speed increased again, whilst working under Maruko. Momo spoke. It was surprisingly Itsuka who asked the next question, what is with his aura? Tsutsuna pipped in, it was like being in the All Might's presence. It was scary but cool. A broken Japanese was spoken by the American student Pony. Ioka just sighed, his improvement rate is the greatest out of all of us. At the beginning of the year he felt like being near a top 10, but now he has to suppress his aura, which leads to him seeming to be in a presence similar to All Might's. That explains a lot. Spoke the class president of 1B, but also heard a lot of gulping from nearby people. Momo's moment. I do need to speak to him about some matters, father and mother asked me for it. She didn't want to admit it, but her family has a secret toxic part to them. Whilst they may be genuinely loving parents, if they have a method of rising further in the society like with status or power they would do a lot of things. The birth of Momo was more out of need than love. Momo's mother has a minor creation quirk that only allows her to produce metals. Though her father has a fat storage quirk that allows him to store fat cells in a more compact manner, allowing it to be the first energy source than proteins. Though there was a problem that neither of her parents foreseen, his relationship with Maruko. For some reason they did insist to ask if the pro hero could share him too. She remembered them starting to ask her questions after the recommendation exam, but Izuku didn't show the shadow ability then. Though they were still interested seeing as the rabbit hero. Maruko actually recommended someone. They were even more shocked about Izuku beating her during the first class exercise, the quirk test. Her parents asked more questions then, but she was lucky that she lived in a dorm. When they heard about Izuku renovating the top male floor and being apprenticed under Nezu they were more than curious. It also seemed that Izuku has a lot of money under him too. Heck, the duo even done a background check which too surprised Momo with the results. Izuku was quirkless until he awoke his quirk after being punched by the number 1 hero. It wasn't unheard of but rare. When they found out that his father Hisashi Midoriya was in the USA and will be working in Japan again, a plan started to form in their heads. When the USJ occurred they were more than shocked about the shadow ability which continued during the sports festival. All 3 thought that Izuku had multiple quirks, but he only had one as was said during the Hosu incident where Stain and the Nomu appeared. Her parents knew that if they had that boy with their daughter, their grandkids would be powerful. But the money that the Midoriyas seemed to be making too would be a decent addition. But having a soon-to-be hero under the banner of the Oirozus would boost their reputation up. They were of course happy for her when she talked about Izuku voting for her being the class rep, how he cared for all of 1A, but when their daughter told them about the competition being of 4 other ladies with some secret ones which neither knew of was a little troubling. Nevertheless they advised her to get closer to the boy and possibly get his hand in marriage someday. She didn't know what will happen in the future as it could cause a massive shitstorm. Momo then thought, easier said than done mother, father. End of Momo's problems. But that the 2 classes finished after the next race. All of them were a little tired so they were dismissed. Surprisingly, Momo and Izuku made some light conversation on the way back with their analytical minds working to show who is mentally superior, which made them both say it was a blast at the end. That's it guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.